Two airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center.
There was smoke everywhere and people are jumping out the windows.
I can't imagine anything worse than this.
This doesn't happen in America. I guess it does.
Today, we've had a national tragedy.
This is WLEX-TV News special Kentucky coverage. Attack on America. Good evening, I'm Kevin Christopher.
And I'm Nancy Cox. Thousands of people are dead or injured after what appears to be coordinated attacks on the World Trade Center in New York and the Pentagon in Washington. New York's mayor says the death toll will include police and firefighters involved in rescue efforts. Terrorists apparently hijacked and crashed 4 airliners in order to carry out the attacks. In his address to the nation tonight, the president said, "Today, our nation saw evil." We have 2 reports tonight. Jim Hanchett is at the Pentagon. Candace Gibson is in New York.
Well, good evening. President Bush is vowing to track down and punish the individuals, the organizations, the countries responsible for this. Tonight, enormous lights are shining down on a big gash in the side of the Pentagon. Smoke is still rising from the rooftop. It is one of many wounds tonight to people, to buildings, and to our sense of safety. As rescuers press on after a day of diabolical terror, hijacked planes piercing the World Trade Center in New York, slamming into the Pentagon in Washington, and crashing into a Pennsylvania field, President Bush says, gravely, the U.S. is standing with steely resolve against evil.
These acts of mass murder were intended to frighten our nation into chaos and retreat. But they have failed.
The explosions begin at 8:42 a.m. Eastern Time. Hijackers armed with knives direct an American Airlines plane into one tower of the 110-story Trade Center. 21 minutes later, a United plane slices through the other tower. At 9:40 a.m., hijackers sent an American flight smashing into the Pentagon. Back in New York, one tower of the Trade Center collapses. A minute later, a United flight nosedives southeast of Pittsburgh. Finally, at 10:28, the other Trade Center tower falls. The dead, and there could be thousands, include workers in the buildings, police and firefighters sent to help them, as well as the 266 aboard the planes. Government and corporate buildings across the U.S. are evacuated, including the White House and the Capitol. Airports are shut down. Terrorism experts say Osama bin Laden is the most likely suspect, although bin Laden supporters deny responsibility. The president puts the U.S. military on its highest alert, deploys Navy ships along the eastern seaboard.
God bless America.
At the Capitol, congressional leaders rally on the steps and vow to be in session tomorrow. First, though, families mourning, survivors still trapped, and rescuers face a night of desperation. No hard numbers yet on the dead and injured. Here at the Pentagon, at least 500 are injured, at least 60 are killed. It is a fraction, though, of the loss in New York. For the latest there, let's go to Candace Gibson.
And Jim, there are a lot of developments here in New York. The George Washington Bridge right now, traffic has been stopped because the FBI is en route to investigate a report of a van found with explosives inside. The New York Police Department made that stop earlier this evening. The FBI en route to the George W. Bridge right now. In the meantime, a miracle story. 2 police officers were found beneath the rubble of the World Trade Centers. All of this, developments, continuing to unfold. Within an instant, a terrorist attack has changed life in New York City. Rescue workers continue to comb through debris, searching for any victims.
There's thousands of people dead. It's horrific.
It all starts around 9 o'clock this morning. One of the 2 World Trade Center towers is on fire after a hijacked airliner slams into it with dozens of people on board.
There was bodies everywhere. They were all on fire and broken. It was just the most horrific thing you've ever seen in your life.
Some 18 minutes later, a second commercial airliner slams into the second tower, sending a huge fireball into the air.
This is a vicious, unprovoked, horrible attack on innocent men, women, and children.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my.
Within hours, the 31-year-old towers came tumbling down, becoming a rubble of memories.
It just collapsed. The whole thing is not even a girder standing. It's like they didn't even exist.
Late this afternoon, a third building in the World Trade Center complex collapsed. Several hours after the attacks, New York City remains under a state of emergency
New Yorkers in a state of shock.
And once again, at this hour, the FBI en route to the George Washington Bridge to look into a report of a van filled with explosives en route to New York City. The stop was made by New York police officers earlier this evening. That's the latest live in New York. I'm Candace Gibson. Let's go back to you.
Candace Gibson and Jim Hanchett, thank you very much.
And Nancy, the fourth hijacked plane went down about an hour and a half from Pittsburgh.
Yes, and a former intern here at LEX-18, Gail Wilson, now teaches at a university near there. I spoke with Gail about the panic and hysteria there.
The NBC station in Pittsburgh just reported about 5 minutes ago that a 911 call was made from the plane that crashed. Caller said, "This is not a hoax, this is not a hoax, this is Flight 93 from United. We've been hijacked." We have a whole congregation of students in one of our auditoriums watching the news on a big screen, and everyone just gasped. It was just unbelievable. There's no other way to describe it.
The sound of that person's voice must have been one of just sheer terror.
Well, you know, it's kind of the thing that you've been thinking about, I've been thinking about all morning as a person who flies a good bit. You're on this plane and you know what's about to happen. And obviously that's what happened on that flight.
And we've been focused on the victims of the World Trade Center, but this is a reminder there were people, normal people, going about their business on these airplanes.
Channel 11 is reporting that there were 90 people on that United flight that crashed in Somerset.
Former LEX-18 intern Gail Wilson. Now, as news of the tragedy hit home, many churches across the nation and right here in Lexington opened their doors for prayer services and vigils. Tammy Kimball joins us live with more.
Well, Kevin, tears fell all across the bluegrass tonight, many in churches as people went and knelt in prayer for the victims. Tears also fell right here in Triangle Park, where people gathered for a candlelight vigil and a message that hate-filled acts like terrorism would not be tolerated. The vigil ended a short time ago, but as you can see, there are still a few stragglers here, still trying to soak in the terror the country faced today. In a time where there are more questions than answers, many turned to God to find peace. A sign showed where worshipers could pray at Southland Christian Church. Their pastor gives words of reassurance at Centenary United Methodist Church as some head to the altar to pray. And at Christ Centered Church, a flag hangs upside down in the sanctuary as a sign that the country is in distress. Some put flags on the lawn.
We decided that we would ask people just to bring flags to show honor and dedication and love for their country.
People in the plane were trying to scare people in buildings, and they hit the buildings and some of the people died, and we're praying for them.
Worshippers left Consolidated Baptist Church's Tuesday night Bible study after some discussion about the terrorist attacks.
We're now seeing a time where literally anything goes. You know, right is wrong and wrong is right. So if it is a wake-up call, as some believe it to be, it could be that God has allowed this to happen to get our attention, focus back on Him.
Strive to be good. Candles light the night sky at Triangle Park as people gather to take a stand against hate.
Conservative people and real sort of hippie people and gays and straights and blacks and whites, and it's just, you know, we all really hate what happened today. And just sort of being here with other people makes it a little easier. Now, we received dozens of calls into the LEX-18 newsroom this afternoon from churches saying that their doors would be open all day today for people to come in and pray. Many of those churches will have their doors open again in the morning, but one good way for you to find out if that's the case with your church is to simply give them a call in the morning. We're covering the news live in Lexington from the LEX-18 mobile newsroom. Back to you, Kevin.
On a night when many Americans are putting their trust in God. Tammy Kimball, thank you.
Congressman Ernie Fletcher has taken note of this outpouring of sympathy and support from Central Kentucky.
We heard the number of churches having prayer meetings tonight, the number of folks that have offered to donate blood. So it's been a tremendous outpouring. We want to thank everyone there for their concern, for their prayers, for their willingness to give, and just reassure them that nation is secure.
Congressman Fletcher tells me he was never in any danger this morning in Washington, and he says the world should be assured The entire Congress stands behind the president.
Some people here in Lexington are also trying to help in another way, by giving blood.
More than 1,200 people donated in central and eastern Kentucky today alone. Molly Grantham has more about the amazing turnout.
People are realizing that they really need
In a time of national darkness and death, Lexingtonians are flocking to give the gift of life.
First time I've seen anything like this. And I've been here since '94.
It's the overwhelming response to the sudden news of New York's Twin Towers turning to rubble and D.C.'s Pentagon becoming a five-sided cloud of smoke.
Absolutely in shock about it. It is very surreal, and I can't believe what has occurred. It leaves me speechless. Totally speechless.
Similar thoughts running through many of the about 500 people here to give blood. Some say a Good Samaritan act is a small way to overcompensate for terrorist evil, but others are more simple in their reasoning. They just don't know how else to help. And as you can see, this is the way many people are deciding to help. It's nighttime, after hours usually closed. We still have a full lobby, people eating dinner, watching CNN, trying to get as much information as they can before they donate blood. In fact, the sign-up sheet here at the Kentucky Blood Center ended at 6:30 because at that point it was already a 4-hour wait. We're covering the news in Lexington. Molly Grantham, back to you.
Molly, thank you. And the Blood Center said they've never seen this kind of turnout for any national tragedy. Because of the many people wanting to donate, the center is extending its hours tomorrow. They'll open extra early at 7:30 in the morning. In fact, there's a group of Transylvania students camping out tonight on the front lawn to make sure they're the first ones in line.
Meanwhile, the Salvation Army is joining forces with us here at LEX-18, along with WKYT and the Lexington Herald-Leader and Clear Channel radio stations, to set up the Attack on America Relief Fund. The Salvation Army is accepting only financial contributions. If you want to give, you can make your check out to the Salvation Army and take your check to any Fifth Third Bank or Central Bank location.
Well, all of America watched in horror as the towers collapsed. But imagine if you had family members there. One Lexington Community College student does. She talked about trying to reach her brother and holding out hope tonight for the best.
I hope that he's okay. That we can make it through this. If he's been injured seriously, if he made it through Vietnam, he could surely make it through this. At first, I didn't believe it. I thought they were referring to the bombing that happened in 1993. Life in general is precious, and it could be lost at any time. And if you don't enjoy it while you have it and enjoy those that you love around you, it's something that you'll miss for a long time if it's taken away from you. I left New York because of a lot of the unsafe things that were going on just locally, just the crime. But to see this on a larger scale, it hits anywhere. It can happen anywhere at any time.
People have been watching this story unfold on television all day.
And they've also been talking about what so many of us are calling the biggest tragedy on American soil since Pearl Harbor. Richard Lom joins us live from Lexington with more.
You know, we were actually live here tonight at Damon's, a pretty popular restaurant, especially if you're looking to go watch the game. They got plenty of TVs behind me. They're not watching the game tonight. In fact, a large number of people were here watching the news, as they still are. And even though there were a lot of people here, they say they weren't having a good time, but they say that in moments of tragedy like this, it is often good to have other people to talk to. To today's tragedy is mixed. While many businesses decided to close early, sending employees home, others stayed open, allowing the healing process to begin with conversation.
It's just incredible. You can't even believe that it went on. I mean, the last time I remember something like that was when people tell you that the space shuttle blew up. And I mean, it's like, yeah, you're joking.
It's just too overwhelming and just more awesome than anything I've seen in my lifetime.
But for some, the tragedy is far too real.
Because I know someone that worked in that building, one of the two buildings, and I'm not sure she got out.
We just had a friend of ours sitting there talking that, you know, they had a girl in their wedding that was up there that they're unaccounted for right now. So we're still kind of curious to see what's going to happen with that.
Huge structures collapsing have filled us with disbelief.
Response to the president's address, however, was pretty much the same, appropriate for the moment.
It was enough to at least reassure the people.
We've been impervious to the kind of this kind of trauma and this kind of tragedy that the rest of the world lives with on a regular basis to some degree or another, and I think that's over now.
One other thing that we were told by a number of people tonight, and that is the visual images that they saw today seem so unreal, partly because we've seen such similar things on Hollywood, and making that connection that this was not a movie, this was reality, was a difficult thing, and still sinking in. I'm Richard Long reporting live from the LEX-18 Mobile Newsroom. Back to you.
All right, Richard, thank you very much. And news about rising gas prices sent many motorists straight from work and right to the gas pumps. There are reports that some bigger cities in the Midwest have stations charging more than $4 a gallon. Carl Bierock joins us live with more on that story.
Kevin, at least here at the Shell on the corner of New Circle and Broadway, they did actually run out of gas earlier tonight, but a tanker came in, filled them back up. But lines all over the Bluegrass and the nation, for that matter, were rather long this afternoon, kind of reminiscent of the 70s gas shortages. And people are filling up right now, not knowing what prices will be tomorrow morning when they wake up. The cars lined up at this gas station on Tates Creek Road aren't there as a part of a free promotion. Scenes like this are common all across the Bluegrass and the nation, for that matter. People waiting upwards of 45 minutes to fill their tanks with gas.
I've been at work all day and haven't been able to really watch TV or listen to the radio. But, you know, just the customers coming in and telling me what was happening. The customers were saying I better run out and get gas pretty soon because of what had happened in New York.
I just figured since I'm here, I might as well get gas because I heard that the prices are going up.
Yeah, at work today, I heard that down in Nicholasville is about $2 a gallon. I don't know if everybody's overreacting. I don't know if it will really affect it or if people are taking advantage of it, but might as well be safe.
Gas station attendants tell me with lines this long, the supply won't last long. And despite the inconvenience, some say the price hike can be expected, just like over the Labor Day weekend.
Gas business seems to control the economy, and if in a crisis situation like this, I think you know, everybody's is looking for gas to go more expensive. So, you know, more money in the pocket of the petroleum companies, I guess.
Now, there have been some reports of some gas stations here in Lexington running out of fuel, and that fuel is just the regular grade. But as I said before, this station ran out. A tanker truck was immediately dispatched. So I'd like to point out, so if a gas station does run out, tankers will be there within the next couple of days to fill them back up. So that is good news there. And also, oil companies tell LEX-18 News that production is continuing, so no need to really worry about any gas shortages. We are covering the news live in Lexington from the LEX-18 Mobile Newsroom. Kevin, back to you.
All right, Carl, thanks. And in fact, Marathon Ashland says gas supplies are plentiful, refineries are at full production, and they can't stress this enough, there's no reason to panic.
Although the attack was aimed at the East Coast, its ties reached all the way here to Lexington. More than 40 Sayre High School juniors left last night for a school trip to Washington, D.C. Today, they were trapped inside the capital city. Molly Grantham followed their plight.
It was supposed to be a typical trip, one Sayre School is used to taking.
There are 42 in our junior class, and they all went, and this is an annual trip.
Who's responsible for this?
But you already know how atypical the day's ending up.
And they said they were just trying to be calm. They were talking with the law enforcement officials, you know, to make sure that they were as safe as they could be.
A bus from Womble's charter bus company dropped the group off Tuesday morning near D.C. Metro, planning to meet up later. But suddenly, the Twin Towers crumbled. The Pentagon was in flames, and both New York City and the capital city were immediately shut down. The Sayre School group was stuck. For a time, no one knew what to do or how to get out, including the bus company back here in Lexington.
The group is really concerned right now because they're just wanting to get out of the Washington area, and we can't get a hold of our bus. The bus was not supposed to pick the group up until 9:30 tonight.
The group is now okay. They waited in a lockdown area until eventually meeting up with the bus driver. Now they're in a hotel in D.C.'s suburbs, just waiting to come home. Covering the news in Lexington, Molly Grantham, LEX-18 News.
A lot of relieved parents out there. Now, the headmaster told LEX-18 that the group plans on trying to get back to Kentucky tomorrow. Within an hour of the attacks in New York, all air service across America was shut down, of course, including right here at the Bluegrass Airport in Lexington.
LEX-18's Richard Lom picks up our coverage of the big story.
Tonight, the Bluegrass Airport remains closed following this morning's decision to suspend all flights over the continental U.S., an act that has caused major confusion.
ComAir just told me that their people are telling them a possible nationwide ground stop with an update at 15Z.
Minutes later, the word became official. All outgoing flights canceled, gates were evacuated, and for flyers like Clifford Solham, confusion turned to fear.
The Pentagon was hit by an airplane. We're evacuating the airport.
You don't feel like you're safe?
No, I do not feel like I'm safe.
Go downstairs, they've got the bags out, and you can get your coupon back and monitor the news to find out when the operation is going to start up again.
But when? Tom Tyre with the airport says operations are on hold until noon tomorrow at the very least.
Stay home, go ahead and call the airline 1-800 number, check the internet site for the airline, call your travel agent, see what you can do to be rebooked on flights for a later date.
Yeah, see the airlines now.
Meanwhile, security is on high alert. More guards, city police, and dogs. Runway access gates were also blocked off, and tonight so is the entire entrance to the airport itself. For the time being, however, this belief has taken the place of inconvenience.
Wow.
Covering Lexington, Richard Lom, LEX-18 News.
And the FAA says all planes will remain grounded until at least noon tomorrow.
And a number of people are stranded at the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky airport as well. LEX-18's Carl Bierock has that story.
The normally busy Cincinnati airport looks like a virtual ghost town. There is no activity on the ramps and at the ticket counters. The departure and arrival signs read the same, canceled. Even if some planes took off, they are quickly brought back to land.
Getting ready to serve breakfast and all that, and they made an announcement that the World Trade Towers had been bombed and that all airports were closed and that we were turning around and going back to land here, and they would update us once we got here and got off the plane.
It hurts. I've seen an awful lot of people that were walking around the airport that were crying, and I'm sure they probably don't have a relative involved at all, but it's a pretty deep cut.
And everybody's getting off with this confused look, like, and then of course all the talk of the World Trade Center and everything like that was coming on TV. We're like, it's like we ain't going nowhere.
Travelers looking to leave the airport were for the most part out of luck. All the cars at the rental companies sold out, and it took a long wait in line just to hail a taxi. And while passengers look at their tickets waiting to go home, one lady from Rockford, Illinois can't stop staring at something else. Her ticket to the World Trade Center, the site she visited just 24 hours earlier.
When we got here to the airport and we heard about it, we called, our parents and our kids, and it was like to let them know we were okay, because they were like, boy, they could be there. Yeah, pretty awful.
Covering the news in Boone County, Carl Bierock, LEX-18 News.
Scary. Well, many major cities across the country evacuated large buildings today, including the Sears Tower and O'Hare Airport in Chicago. Well, tension has been running high at the state capitol today as well.
Kentucky State Police tightened security at the building this morning in response to the terrorist attacks, and as LEX-18's Lisa Kaplan reports, some workers were too nervous to stay.
All entrances but one sealed at the state capitol. People can only enter through the east end, where they must sign in and show ID to security guards.
We don't have any reason to believe there's any danger to this building, but we're taking whatever precautionary steps we think we should take.
State police officers are on guard at all sealed entrances, while police cruisers patrol streets surrounding the building. The mood inside, somber and tense. Some of the hundreds of Capitol workers on edge left early for the day. Others chose to stay on the job, though distracted, keeping TVs and radios tuned to coverage of the attacks.
I've been glued to it, quite frankly, and I've been horrified by what I've seen. I mean, it's just surreal. You can't believe that this is actually occurring.
Administrative Assistant Iris Lewis is among those who chose to stay, though she admits to feeling slightly nervous.
Been a little tense here today, actually, but we're really grateful for the lockdown. It's made everybody feel a little more comfortable.
Covering the news in Frankfort, Lisa Kaplan, LEX-18 News.
Security's also been tight today at the governor's mansion, and the lieutenant governor's mansion was closed to tours. Well, Governor Patton and state officials immediately took measures to protect Kentuckians.
John McGarry spent part of the afternoon at the State Emergency Operations Center.
A surreal scene at the Boone Center in Frankfort. Governor Patton being briefed by an FBI agent with broadcast scenes of horror behind them. Patton says state offices will remain open though security at the Capitol is beefed up.
There's no reason to believe that any facility in Kentucky would be any more threatened by a track than anywhere in the nation.
Such a disaster.
Kentucky's Adjutant General, top National Guard officer, and head of emergency management agencies says the command center keeps state agencies from chasing each other's tails.
By asking each agency to send a representative like these folks here, we got face-to-face communications, and we can cut that time process down a lot.
Check with your agencies. And speed is of the essence should terrorism and tragedy come to the bluegrass. 2 C-130s stand by, ready to lift off if asked.
Obviously.
And a shiny-eyed general has asked about friends at the Pentagon who may have lost their lives far away from a battlefield.
We don't expect it to happen there at the Pentagon office, but these, the folks who are there are some of the finest Americans there have ever been, and we just have to pray for them.
Covering the news in Frankfort, John McGarry, WLEX-TV News.
Governor Paul Patton was scheduled to attend the final day of the Southern Governors Association meetings here in Lexington. That was canceled, and all of the governors headed home with state police escorts to the state line.
And moments after leaving the Emergency Operations Center, Governor Patton spoke to the media at a news conference in response to the terrorist attacks.
Someone come in and said a second plane had hit it. That made it wasn't an accident. Then we went into a room where there was a television, and then when the Pentagon was attacked, that's when we realized that it was an attack on our nation, and the mood became extremely grave.
The governor was just one of several who had to cut short his appearance at the Southern Governors Convention here in Lexington. While all air traffic in America was suspended, the governors had to find other ways to return to their respective state capitals.
At Eastern Kentucky University, former FBI agent Tom Thurman teaches college students how to hunt for clues in arson fires and bombings.
And Nancy, today's lesson played out on national television. And Thurman tried to put it in perspective for his students, the next generation of investigators. As an FBI agent, Tom Thurman found a key piece of evidence in the rubble of Pan Am Flight 103. He worked the World Trade Center bombing in 1993. But what happened in New York today floored him.
I cannot believe that people would hate so much to do something like this.
That made Tuesday's message to his students a very sobering one.
Is this what you want to do? Investigate these types of incidents? And I said, hopefully, never in your lifetime will you ever see anything this horrific.
But because it has happened, it becomes, like the other heinous crimes Thurman has witnessed, one that must be solved.
It's not just the FBI problem. It is a FAA problem. It is a Department of Defense problem. It's everybody's problem. The whole investigative community will come together in a massive coordinated effort to find who's responsible for this.
And Thurman says they will find them. The only question then will be what measure of retribution will be exacted.
The extent of this tragedy continues to halt activities nationwide. In fact, every major sporting event, from Major League Baseball to the PGA Tour, has been postponed. And it's also impacted local teams. Ryan Lemon has more on that.
Well, as you said, this tragedy is affecting everyone. Tonight we learned that Rick Pitino's brother-in-law and close friend, Billy Minardi, has an office on the 105th floor of the North Tower at the World Trade Center and went to work this morning, but hasn't been heard from since. Well, since the Lexington Legends were hoping to wrap up their championship run tonight in Asheville, North Carolina, but like every other sporting event in the country, that game was canceled. Now the team, like the nation, sits and waits. Chris Devoda has more.
The Lexington Legends left town around 8 a.m. this morning, unaware that just 45 minutes later, the nation would be under attack.
Gary, you called him? Yeah.
So they did know it.
Yeah, so we called him by cell phone, and that's how they found out.
For the first time in 56 years, Major League Baseball has canceled the entire slate of tonight's games. The minor leagues, which only have championship series games remaining, have followed suit.
He has told us that he'll let us know tomorrow morning what the status is. He's probably going to take his cue, my guess is, from the major leagues.
While a baseball game is insignificant in the spectrum of these events, the fact that it's been put on hold reflects the severity of what's happened to our country.
In World War II, President Roosevelt ordered the major leagues to continue so that Americans could get back to a sense of normalcy in an abnormal time. I suspect that you'll find the same thing will happen here. Baseball is part of America, and You hate to let the cowards win in any degree.
A decision will be made tomorrow morning on whether or not the Legends in Asheville will play Game 3 of the championship series tomorrow night or move the game back another day. Also, no decision has been made yet concerning UK's football game this weekend at Indiana. SEC athletic directors discussed the situation today, where it was decided to wait until tomorrow before making a decision on this weekend's football games. One option is to back up the entire football season 1 week. Another option is to play all of this weekend's games at the end of the season. Also, Kaywood Ledford's memorial service set for Thursday at Rupp Arena has been postponed until a later date.
Ryan, thank you. And we will let you know how all of that's going to play out just as soon as we get that information.
All right, now let's check in with our chief meteorologist, Bill Meck.
Maybe we can use weather here to kind of bring us back to a little normalcy because our weather tomorrow is going to be, well, pretty good out there. Here you go, 83 tomorrow, mostly sunny day. And again, we'll just kind of put everything in perspective here. Just enjoy tomorrow.
Bill Meck, thank you very much. Now, we want to hear from you what your thoughts and feelings are about this horrendous attack on America.
So tonight we ask you to log on to WLEX-TV.com and tell us what's on your mind. We'll have some of those responses on LEX-18 News at sunrise.
We know that people have lots of thoughts and feelings they'd like to share out there. One man in Madison County had a rather unusual way of expressing that. He was standing on the overpass over I-75 at the first Richmond exit with just a large American flag, just waving it back and forth as a sign that you can attack us, but the American spirit cannot be broken. We are one nation, united under God.
It's safe to say that much of America will not sleep well tonight. However, America will not rest until there is retribution and the people responsible for this heinous crime are punished. We'll be joining more of NBC News coverage right after you take a look at how some Americans once again have asked God to bless them this night.